All right, so the next step we're on, once we have our data, because we've already performed our experiment, our test, is taking that data and organizing it into something that visually gives us a lot more information. Okay, so this is good. Like, this is my project, um, Romeo's weight each week, and I'm trying to see what it is in the end once he's like full grown, right? And keep in mind, I was going to a website and I was putting in his age in weeks, and I was getting back the calculated prediction for what his adult weight's going to be. Okay, and so I've been recording both of those by weeks. I went through and had all of this, and then I had his predicted weight. Each time that I go in and check it, it would predict his weight and say what it's going to be in the end. And there's quite a bit of information I can gain from looking at that, but there's still some stuff that can be better represented with a table. With a graph or a chart. Okay, so here's what you're going to do: is once you have your data table filled in, one, make sure that you don't have units in next to these numbers. So notice up above I said Romeo's weight in pounds. I say what the units are there instead of saying like 12 lbs or something like that. Okay, you don't want that in there because when it comes time to graph, and that's what we're doing now, it's going to have a hard time recognizing what those letters are. It's not going to recognize it as being a unit. It's just going to say, huh, trying to put this number in there, but there's these weird letters too. So keep it just raw numbers, and I'm just going to do these first three here. Okay, so the week, his weight, and then his predicted weight. Okay, so I'm going to highlight these. You don't actually have to highlight the top parts. You could just do the numbers, but I am going to highlight the top parts because that's just kind of how I do it. And excuse me, I'll go down to here, the bottom of my data. Okay, now I should have all of that selected. Okay, and I'll go to chart up at the top. And when I click on chart, now I'm looking at different types of ways to represent this information. I'm looking at something that's happening over time, okay? And a good way to represent time is with these either XY scatter or line graphs like this. I'll show you in a minute. I did another one with like a bar chart or a column graph. I'll show you what that looks like. But there's different ways that you can do it. You just kind of pick the one that best represents whatever it is you're trying to model. And there's, of course, different colors. So if you want to go with a color scheme that fits your presentation board the best, then great. Go ahead and go with that. I'll do green. I'll do green and gray. Okay, so I click on it. I say what kind of graph that I want, and it literally just makes the whole thing for me. Okay. Now, the nice thing about this is you can expand it, make it larger, smaller, contract it that way, shrink it up this way. It doesn't matter. The nice thing about selecting the columns at the top is that it tells me specifically what these are. It says Romeo's weight versus predicted weight, both in pounds. So it gives me this little key. It creates that for me. And that is nice. That is handy. I would suggest you do it for that reason. Okay. And so I can keep that here, so when people look at it, they know what they're looking at. And I'm not done yet. Okay, this is good. It looks really nice, but it's missing a lot of information. Like if I hadn't explained everything that was going on here, you might look at this graph and say, I don't know what this is trying to show me. Okay, so we want to better label some of this, just so it's easier to understand by looking at the graph. So if I select my graph and go over to the right, if it's not already sticking out, you'll want to click on Format up here on your toolbar. And this is where you can format your graph or chart. If you don't like those colors and you want to switch them up, you can. Try to pick colors that when you print them off are going to look nice on your board, okay? So again, if you have some color scheme you're going with, then great. Go ahead and go with that. Okay, so I'll just leave it with this. And I have a legend. It's checked, right? This is my legend. But I want a title. Your title should be very, oftentimes it's actually kind of long, the title. And the reason for that is that you should look at the title and you should know exactly what it is trying to show us by this graph, okay? So I might say, a dog's weight in ages compared to their predicted adult predicted weight. And I know that's really wordy and it's long, but when you read that, it tells you what it is that this graph is trying to show us. A dog's weight, let's put this. A dog's, it doesn't make any sense, does it? A dog's weight per week compared to their adult predicted weight. How about that? Grammatically, yes, we want to be correct. These should be capitalized. Dog's weight each week compared to their adult predicted weight. Okay, and if I want to stretch that and make it wider, I can. If I want to make this text larger, like, this is the title of it, I want it to be easy for people to read. I can change the colors of it, I can change the font of it, whatever it is I want that's going to make this more appealing, great. Now I have numbers on the vertical axis, my y-axis, and numbers on my x-axis, but it doesn't really tell me what those numbers are representing. We might look at it long enough and be able to tell it, but why make people do that? So I have my x-axis selected here, and it has an axis line, but I should have an axis name. And I can call that age, and my unit is weeks. Make sure you include the unit. And for my vertical y-axis, I don't have that labeled yet. I can select up here value y, include an axis name, and now I can call this dog's weight in, my unit is pounds. Okay. So now I have a title, I have my y-axis labeled, I have my x-axis labeled. There's other options, more things that you could add in there, and that's totally up to you. You don't have to, but you could add more information. Otherwise, I showed you how to select colors, and you can change those colors. If it fits better as a longer one, where you can see it more stretched out over time, great. If not, if you need it to fit better, all of these are going to kind of get that point across. And again, if you have a little legend, make sure that that's in a good place as well. And honestly, that's all you need. From there, all you'll do is just screen capture, Command-Shift-4, and you've got your image. That's my screenshot, and you can drag and drop that into your Keynote, and you're ready to go.